Hi everyone, welcome to the Stay Hungry podcast. I've got a very special guest for you today and an awesome topic too. Sarah Braud, welcome to the Stay Hungry podcast.
Hi, Joel. How are you? Nice to have you.
I'm good. I'm good. So, for the benefit of our UK listeners, tell us who you are.
I am Sarah Braud. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and I am a marketing consultant and story consultant.
Yeah, so I suspect we'll be talking a little bit about Story Brand at some point today.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a relatively new concept to the UK, so that's a cool one for us to get into. But today, so I'm told, we're going to be talking about what movies can teach us about effective marketing campaigns.
Okay, sounds great.
That's cool for me because I love movies. So,
That's great.
so
Yeah, I'm a big movie fan myself.
nice. What's your favorite film?
Oh, that's always a hard question. I would say Goonies is my
Yeah.
all-time favorite,
Okay.
and then Moulin Rouge is my, it's
Baz
my long,
Luhrmann.
yeah,
Yeah. Nice.
great.
Okay. Yeah. So we always ask people that, whether it's on the podcast, whether it's
Oh, wow. Okay.
interviewing candidates or whatever. What's your favorite film? And I judge people quite heavily on on what they say.
Oh, how
So,
did I do?
oh, great. Yeah, I like Baz Luhrmann, so we're all good. So
He's my fave.
yeah. I can watch his films on mute. Does that make sense? It just they're like
Yes.
art all the way through. So
Yeah. I don't know if this is true because I haven't actually researched it at all, but while I'm watching his films, I feel like if you paused it at any place, there could be like it's a painting.
yeah,
It's like a famous painting that he's constructed in the middle of his stories. Is that right? I
I
don't know.
think so because they're always framed perfectly. So
Perfectly.
it's like there's always like a leading line and something to draw you in, and yeah,
Right.
that plays on my kind of geekiness. I'm into that. So
Same.
tell us about you. Who have you worked with? Kind of how do you help people?
So I help anywhere from small businesses or nonprofits to global corporations. And basically, I come in and help them write their brand story
Yeah,
so that they can communicate and connect and convert with their audience.
sure,
Uh,
okay,
and I it's my favorite part of my job. I also do a lot of content creation
sure.
and script writing and strategy, things like that. But my favorite thing to do is helping businesses write their brand story.
Got you. So when you walk into a business, and I go through this myself, and you say you need to tell your story, what kind of reaction do you tend to get to start with?
Well, generally, when people are, looking for me, it's because they already know they need
Sure.
some a new message to connect, and they've not done a good job doing that so far. So generally they're open to me when I come in the door. But yeah, what I think they have a harder time with is hearing that their business is not the hero of their story,
Sure.
that their audience, their customer, their end user is.
Okay.
And
And
that's where I have to give them some movement.
yeah, absolutely. So there's an educational piece with every new client in the sense that nobody cares about the features of your product. They care about the benefits. And
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah,
I
that's
got you.
exactly right.
Yeah. So, well, maybe things aren't so different across the pond. So, it's, yeah. And talk to me how
Yeah, we
that.
just have a different way of talking about it, I guess.
Yeah, I think. Well, it normally takes about 20 years, and we start to talk about it how you do, and that's kind of how it follows. So story brand in particular is quite a new concept over here.
Okay.
Couple of clients we're working with now who followed that framework, um, and it's brilliant because if you're content creators like us or you're working with them on advertising or whatever it might be, they've always got this core to go back to. There's always something to sit with.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually am not a certified guide right now. I
Sure.
was for 2 years, and I loved learning the framework. Um, and so people aren't searching me to become, to get story branded. However, um, I can't forget that framework.
Of course.
Once you know it, and I go back to it every time. So it is really brilliantly simple.
Hmm.
And that's really the goal of all of the messaging that we do, is making sure it's simple and clear. And
Sure.
that's first, and then clever comes later. But the clarity part is the number one part of the
I
story.
think you've been spying on me today. I recorded a video this morning. We record a couple of content videos a week, and my video today was the number one thing most businesses get wrong with their marketing is a lack of clarity.
That's it.
And purely because it's so scary to simplify things down to the bare bones. You've tried so hard to build your business, and then to be told, yeah, you need to scale this back, you need to strip it back.
Yeah, yeah. So in StoryBrand, Don Miller talks about the curse of knowledge,
Yeah,
and how most businesses are communicating at a level 7. They know, up to, out of a scale of from 1 to 10, they know, they're at a 10 with the knowledge of what they are offering. And they come down to about a 7 when they're communicating what they offer, but people buy between a 1 and a 3.
sure.
So it's really just a matter of helping them distill what they do to keep it clear.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess one of the things we see off the back of that is sometimes our clients are surprised when their customers buy something off somebody else. Why didn't they buy it from us? Because we've been
Right,
talking about it for years. Well, you might have been
right.
talking about it for years, but actually they didn't understand. So,
Exactly. Yeah. It's a story game. I think it's whoever tells the best story wins. And that's my tagline, best story wins.
hmm.
And, you find that even in the political race,
Oh,
who's telling the
we've
best
gone there.
story.
We've gone
And
there.
so it's unfortunate that certain stories are being told better than others. And,
Mm.
you know, that's what it's coming down to.
Yeah, yeah, and that's on both sides of the Atlantic. It's a lot of it is quite far from the truth, but pretty good
Yeah,
stories.
exactly.
So,
Exactly. Yeah.
um,
And they're narratives that stick in brains, and the more simple they are, the easier they are to consume. And so, you
yeah,
know,
hugely. So talk to me about consumption because you've touched on it there,
yeah,
and I guess something that people don't grasp is if it's food, if it's really easy to eat, you'll sell more of it.
right. Yeah. I mean, so, you know, uh, story is something that we've used for, from, beyond, from, anti, and what word am I thinking of? Um, you know, from ancient times.
Sure,
Gosh, I have COVID brain, I think. Um,
we all do. It's fine.
yeah. Oh man, it's bad. But so from, ancient times, we've passed down information using story. And story is one way that we can consume the least amount of calories while we, take information in.
Yeah.
And so our brains are hardwired to survive. And when you are um, going to a website, that's filled with text and filled with information, our brains, turn on these buzzers that say, this is too much information to consume.
Hmm.
And we need those bite size, pieces that tell us that, okay, this is easy to take in, and we are going to be able to survive here and thrive on this website because it's not going to demand too much from me.
Yeah.
But it's just like if you go to a dinner party and someone is speaking to you, um, and you say, "Oh, what do you do?" Or, "What's your business?" And somebody, their response is, "Oh, well, it's really confusing. It's really hard to explain." Your brain turns off and you say, where are the snacks, and because they're not giving you anything that's easy to consume.
Sure.
And so um, our brains are really smart. It's our own smart technology where, if it's not easy to take in, we're not gonna spend the extra calories it takes to think about it.
Got you. So if I approach you at a dinner party and I say, Sarah, what do you do? Sarah, what do you do?
Well, um, I think that most companies spend way too much money on marketing because they don't know how to tell their story. And I offer brand storytelling and content creation so that companies can engage, ignite, and convert their audience into customers.
Awesome. And if you can't understand that, you can't work with Sarah. So
Exactly. Is that too complex?
no, no, I like that. So
No, it's usually you. I love the phrase, "You can't read the label from the inside of the bottle," and so it's actually really hard to market yourself, and even marketing, experts really have a hard time marketing themselves because
yeah,
you don't know from the, you're not outside looking in. So that's why I think outside is really important when you're hiring um, marketers, somebody that doesn't actually know your industry very well.
yeah, kind of that empathetic view of your profession.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, no, I get that. I mean, by trade, I'm a graphic designer. So when people ask me at dinner
Mm.
parties, what do? I just say I'm really good at colouring, and job done.
Yeah, there you go.
So
So
talk to
you're a
me.
visual storyteller.
Yeah, visual story. That's better than really good at colouring in. But I never go over the lines, so I'm getting there.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
talk to me. What movies can teach us about this then? What?
Well, when you think about the hero's journey,
Hmm.
and story movies are always about the hero's journey where, the hero starts off wanting something,
Yeah,
and he comes across obstacles, or she, runs into problems, or there's a villain that's coming after her. um, you your company is not the hero of the story because your company doesn't have problems.
sure.
At least that's what you want to present. And your company is the guide to that hero.
Yep.
And your company helps that hero reach their goals and get what they want. And movies are always about transformation. It's not a good movie unless there's transformation that happens. And so, um, your company doesn't need to transform. You're trying to help others transform. And so you need to position yourself as the guide to the hero. So the hero of Harry Potter
Hmm.
is Harry Potter, and who is his guide?
Okay, so yeah, maybe Dumbledore. I don't know.
Dumbledore.
Yeah,
Dumbledore, I would say, is the guide. He's the sage, um, and he guides Harry to, the end of what Harry is ultimately wanting to do. And so, um, same with any of the good movies. I believe isn't it's usually the funny person that's the guide.
yeah,
Not usually, but that's an archetype that I'm just thinking of. Moulin Rouge, you have Christian who is wanting to learn all about the bohemian life, and he wants to find out what love is, and he wants to experience love. And his guide is a character called Toulouse-Lautrec,
Yeah.
and Toulouse is introducing him to this new bohemian life. And so, I think that's the biggest thing that movies can teach us, is that the guide is the steady person in the story. Even in the Christian narrative, Jesus isn't the hero of the story. Jesus is the guide.
Okay.
That brings the person to the transformation that they are searching for. So it's just good storytelling.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I guess Disney films are a good way to kind of look at
Absolutely.
this kind of thing, because they're obviously masters of storytelling,
They
and
are.
in
Yeah.
a simple way, because everybody's got to be able to consume it. And funnily, you said Harry Potter. The first thing that popped to my mind was Sword in the Stone, with Merlin being the guide, and Arthur kind of being the hero.
I usually start with Star Wars, but all of a sudden your accent just threw me into Harry Potter. I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
really? There's lots of British accents in Star Wars. We're just always the bad guys. So.
No, no, in Harry Potter. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I think I'm a bit more country than the Harry Potter cast, but
Oh, okay. Okay.
cool. So you approach a company and you say to them, "Look, we need to build your story. Where does that story come from?"
It always starts again with the hero, and so that story starts with their ideal client
Hmm.
avatar. This is kind of where I break away from StoryBrand. And if you're not familiar with StoryBrand, it's a book written by Donald Miller, and he writes out his framework for storytelling in businesses,
Yeah,
and it's brilliant. And again, I lean on it and use it every day in my work. But um, what he doesn't talk about in StoryBrand is really knowing your audience so well that you know exactly where they live, how much they make, what their dreams are, what their daily movements are.
yeah,
And so I think coming up with your ideal client avatar is really where you start. And so you got to get to know the hero of your story before you write it. And so I would say it always starts there. You know what their problems that they're facing, and this is where StoryBrand helps. It's really showing you how to break down their problems into three parts, which are the internal, the external. Well, you start with the external problems, and that's what problems are they facing, tangible, real, felt problems, and then how are those problems making them feel, and then what do they believe is true about those problems, and um, what what's just wrong, fundamentally and philosophically wrong about the fact that they're facing those problems.
hmm
And so um, yeah, you always have to start with knowing your customer.
So I'm going to hit the ads, and then I'm going to play devil's advocate and ask you some questions about customers.
Okay.
Hi there, it's Andy at Codebreak. Thanks for listening to the Stay Hungry podcast. It's business owners like you that keep the wheels of the world turning. Did you know that Codebreak offers a marketing consultancy service? Visit codebreak.co.uk today and book your discovery call with me or Joel, and let's skyrocket your business together. We can't wait to hear about your goals.
And we're back. So, something that happens to me all the time when I talk to customers or clients about their perfect customer is they're terrified of niching down to their perfect customer. Tell me why you would do that.
Well, I got to say, I have the same struggle. So I'll be, I do have my perfect customer, but when somebody comes knocking and they're not in that thing, it's really hard to turn money away. Um, However, those are the clients that that take much longer to work with. They're more expensive to work with. At the end of the day, they distract you from becoming the expert that those niche clients, bring.
Mm-hmm.
So, I would say, yeah, I mean, niching. So you want me to fight against niching down or for?
Well, I think we both agree that you should be niching down.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we probably both encounter businesses that are really scared to do that.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm asking you to provide the reassurance that it's the right move, but
It's a struggle. So I'm going to provide first the empathy, and then the reassurance that it is the right way to go, because oftentimes when I'm helping people create their message that goes on their website, they're afraid to target that one audience.
yeah,
They want to include everybody. The problem is, there is no such thing as an everybody. Only one person's reading your website at a time. And, I always say it's not B to C or B to B, it's B to H, it's really H to H, humans talking to humans. And so you really need to have your message so clear that when that one person that you're speaking to comes to your website, they know exactly they know that who they are
mm-hmm.
and what they're struggling with, versus just, shooting the entire wall, aiming at the entire wall and hoping to hit the target.
We say a phrase quite similar to that in our business, but well, how easily offended are you?
Not easily.
Okay, so I tell our guys, don't throw as much shit at the wall and see what sticks, because that's a terrible approach.
That's exactly right.
And
gosh, I thought you were going to give me something so much better than that.
I've got more. There's plenty more in the bank. But
I was prepared for really hard. No, yeah, I say I don't have much of a filter,
mm-hmm.
and I say I was born with a faulty filter, and so I love Jesus and I love to cuss, and so that's my. I usually approach my clients with that when I ask them to, like, how can you handle this? So
yeah, and I think certainly in marketing circles, it's really important. It's really, really important to have that open relationship, because
absolutely.
Sometimes you have to tell clients quite hard truths, and
Mm-hmm.
I would say most business decision makers would rather you rip the we say rip the plaster off. I don't know what the American phrase would be.
Rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, rip the Band-Aid off. Because otherwise you're going to be walking around each other in circles for weeks trying to get to that point. And people can't afford that. That's not... but I guess the comeback we always get is they're really scared that they've got their audience wrong. And then they'll spend all this time building a marketing campaign and building their story around this audience, and it turns out they got it wrong. And well, we would say to that, you need to test your audiences, but I don't know what.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I was just speaking to a client the other day, and they were asking me to audit their website, which is usually where I start. It's like, are they doing a good job, telling their story? But they asked me to check their website that they're in the middle of building, and their homepage was, you could tell, was targeting like 3 different, what we call like sales verticals.
Yeah.
Or,
demographics.
Demographics. Yeah. And so they were targeting different people, and they had different calls to action for each of those audiences on the homepage. And I had to tell them, I was like, what you've worked on is a big fat waste of time, and you're totally missing the mark. So yeah, I probably used a little bit more colorful language than that.
Sure,
but,
yeah. I can
And it was
understand.
hard. It was hard because it was actually during, a pitch, for my services. And so I think they were wondering, is she worth her, price? And so they were like, so what would you do? We're in the middle of this campaign, to recreate our homepage. How would you do it? And I was like, I would start over,
Yeah.
so it's a hard pill to swallow.
But if they listen, they're going to be a good client.
Exactly. And if they don't, then yeah, I'm not meant for them. So that's the niche part. Cause sometimes they'll hire me anyway
Hmm.
if they don't agree. And then it's just a battle.
Yeah, yeah. It's beyond kind of taking the client on a journey and becomes much more of kind of daily arguments, really. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It, my hardest, my hardest clients are generally the ones that pay the lease amount and don't really fit into my ideal client avatar.
Yeah, and we've all got them. We've
Yeah.
we've all got them. So
Yes.
I won't be forgiven unless I ask you this, but your profile talks heavily about how you encourage female entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Now we've got quite a female heavy team, and
Do you?
they really wanted me to ask, what's your advice for women coming into marketing and female entrepreneurs around the world looking at things like telling their story? What would you tell them?
I would say, it's a boys' club still in our field. And I think really knowing your own story and what makes you have authority in this field, you need to trust and trust that you are the guide in this story to the heroes that you're serving. And, one of the things that helps, whether it be the person, the audience hearing the message or your client, um, women are really strong with empathy, and
Yeah,
we've been groomed more than men have, since birth. And it's just, the way we've been raised is we've been raised to be empathetic, and whether that's a genetic, disposition or not, but I think we excel in understanding other people. And so we really know our clients, we really know our customers, we really um, understand what their struggles are. And I think trusting that your client, and that's really the most important part of being in this field. So, yeah, just own your authority in this space, and you know, own your emotions, because actually stories are, you know, should evoke emotion. And typically in the business world, we try to hide emotion because for some reason that's not professional. We try to hide that we're, exhausted, that we have children at home, that, we're trying to teach our kids online, virtually during, stay at home orders or whatever. And we're juggling a lot. And um, we don't have to hide that,
yeah,
because our clients and our customers are experiencing the exact same thing. And so bring your emotions to the table and don't apologize for them.
that's awesome. So you've made me feel better because something I talked to the team about is that vulnerabilities aren't a weakness, which uh, sounds counterintuitive, but actually people can relate to you if you're vulnerable. Where
Absolutely.
if you have a wall and you don't let people in, you don't give people the opportunity to be open with you, it can be a real issue in business. And certainly the male members of staff here are quite what they would describe it as results driven, and I would
Yeah.
I would describe it as, no, you're numbers driven. And actually, the female balance is really nice here because it's the emotional response from the client that we need. They don't really care if their numbers go up or down as long as it makes them feel good. And we need both. we need the business result and the emotional result, and teaching our team to be more vulnerable and more open to kind of what the personal goals of a client might be. Takes a really rounded view.
Exactly. And, unfortunately, the numbers results are easier to measure. The emotions, they can be measured, but it's not as easy. And so we always look for the easy way to see if we're winning. But that's really not, that's not the whole story, like you said. And I think having a vision of going from, your customer starts as one thing and you want them to transform, right? And so they start as a caterpillar and they end up as a butterfly. And so those are that's the vision that we're casting. And it doesn't matter if you're hitting these target milestones if the end isn't the butterfly, and so I think having that visual at the end really is a better version of did this work?
Yeah, absolutely. And visualization, I think, is probably about to become huge in marketing. So it's always been, it's a technique that's massive in business growth, but in terms of marketing, because marketing's always traditionally been measured by the metrics. People forget, okay, well, what did it make you feel like to become the butterfly? What did it look like? What difference did it make to your life and the other directors of your company's lives and the people in your team? And that's something that, particularly over here, is quite rare at the moment for an agency to come and talk to you about, okay, well, that's great, but what difference does this make to your life? How does this change things?
Yeah. And, one thing that I always add to my story brand, framework is, what are the metaphors? What are the images that you need to bring to your story? And so we look at that transformation and that vision change. You're tired and you're overwhelmed with life, and then I bring my product in, whatever it is, and then I end up with somebody that is full of energy and actually can serve their family happily. Like the mom that's screaming at her kids all day long to the mom who's enjoying her children, and so those images, that's, bringing images to life and really bringing all your senses in, that's good storytelling, concrete details. We say the more particular, I can't remember who said this. I'm not going to remember, but the more particular the story, the more universal it is. And so the more specific you can be, the more details you can give, the more others can relate to it.
Yeah, I watched a documentary by Penn and Teller about that, and the fact that they make people believe that they can read their minds by being very specific, but actually it's because everybody has those specifics in their mind already.
Yeah. Ray Edwards, who's an amazing copywriter and has his own copywriting course. He teaches that. Let me think. He says, the more specific you get, the more people can relate. Because he gave this example one time. I was hearing him talk, and he said that he started talking about his first car.
Yeah.
The first car he got, and it was this red Mustang that his dad had bought him that needed to be fixed up, and he spent hours working on it in the garage. And he loved, the way the motor sound when he revved it, and he loved the way he felt when he got in the car. And and then he asked the audience, like, what did you think about when I was telling that story? And everybody said that they were thinking about their first car that they owned. And so that's the more specific he got about his car, the more our memory pulled out, our car.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't have to be the same car, it's just our experiences could have been very similar.
Sure.
Hey there, Evie at Codebreak here. Fancy top tips, marketing insights and awesomeness delivered directly to you? Sign up for the free Stay Hungry printed newsletter at codebreak.co.uk.
And we're back. So, I'm going to lower the tone. What's your least favourite film?
Oh my goodness, my least favorite film. Well, usually I don't finish the films that I don't like. Gosh, what have I hated? That's really hard. I love movies. I can't think of one. You got to give me some.
I'll give you a fairer
question.
question. A fairer question. What's a really, really popular film that you don't like?
God, I'm drawing a blank. Oh yeah, I don't like sappy stuff.
Okay.
So if it's sentimental, I'm not into it. If it's too feel good and not enough raw reality, I lose interest, and so then I just don't finish them. So, something that would be like a dog movie, or an old man and his dog. Those generally do not appeal to me.
Okay. And
I like a lot of problems in mine. I like a lot of things that people have to overcome.
Okay.
Like Lord of the Rings, the harder their life, the better, because it makes me feel better about my own.
That's fair. I like that. See, I like the Rocky films, and obviously he's had a hard time to start with. Later on, it gets a bit silly, but
exactly, yeah.
To start with, I always tell people that the original Rocky film is a life romance, and obviously the younger people in our team will always say, "Oh, it's a boxing film, isn't it?" And well, no, not really.
No.
There's very little boxing in it. Yeah. And and then when they see it, they're surprised at the journey he goes on. And I guess in the Rocky films, Mickey, his coach, is the guide. So
absolutely, yeah. I lived in Philly, so we ran those steps often.
Oh, really? Awesome.
Yeah.
See, that's on my bucket list. So, but so many people have done it now that I think I need something better. Is that bad?
Need to add to it? Yeah. I mean, I feel you, but I think you just got to go straight. You just, you just got to own being a cliche and enjoy it.
Oh, I've made this mistake before though. I went to New York, and top of my list was to go see the Ghostbusters Firehouse. That had to happen. And we walked across New York, got to the Ghostbusters Firehouse, and it was covered in scaffolding and tarpaulin. I've come all this way, and my wife just thought it was hilarious and thought I was pathetic. So
yeah, there's some books here that I can't stand, and so I think there's a painter named Thomas Kincaid, and he's considered the painter of light.
Yeah,
and it's just way too pretty, and so a lot of people want to go to these cities that these books are based in.
Sure.
And I'm not into that, but take me to Flannery O'Connor's house, and we've got a good trip.
Yeah, planned. I get it. No, that makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense. So, a business who maybe has not been getting their marketing right, and they want to tell their story, and they know who their customer avatar is, so they've got that far. What's their first step?
So they've got their customer avatar, and then they really need to hone down what their customer wants. What it is they are trying to pursue, and really, you're telling one story. You're not telling every story that they're going through, and so really honing down to that one storyline is actually really the hard work of it. So, um, you know, Donald Miller gives this example about the movie Taken. Are you familiar with Liam Neeson and
I
Taken?
am. We talked about that today here, which is now making me feel strange. So
okay, and maybe you and I are
on the level.
Yes. So Taken, Liam Neeson, he wants to get his daughter back, right? That's the single most important storyline in that film. Born Identity. What is it that Matt Damon wants? What is it his character wants? Do you remember?
I think he basically wants to find out who he is.
Yeah, he wants to find out who's his. He doesn't remember who he is, so he's trying to find that out. If either of these films added in, he also, Liam wants to check out universities while he's in London so that he and his daughter can decide where she's going to go. That waters down the story.
Yeah.
And in fact, it would not keep our attention. If Jason Bourne wanted to, adopt a cat, you lose we lose interest.
Yeah.
Because our brains want to latch on to that one storyline. We want to see that completion of a story. Can you hear my dogs scratching? They're going nuts.
I like it. It's adding some realism to the podcast.
I don't know what their deal is, but I always put them up during.
What dogs do you have? That's an important question.
Oh yeah, I have a golden retriever and a mix. We call it golden doodle. So he is a half standard poodle and half golden retriever.
Ah, nice.
So yeah, they're both. We call them our therapy dogs, and so they do their job well.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I think my dog serves that purpose too. So.
Yeah, so we don't deny our family's need for therapy, so we bring in the dogs to help us as well. Nice. But yeah, so it's all about telling one story and telling that one story well. And if you bring in multiple stories that you're telling, it gets way too confusing. So, somebody will say, well, my client wants to spend less money, to waste less time, and they really want the best quality. They want to have a legacy.
Yeah.
And you say, okay, which one are we going to go with? Which of those are we really going to hone in on? Because you can't tell all those three stories and make it a good one. You can tell a legacy story great,
Yeah.
And in fact, that one is the one I would choose, because that one, that hits all of those emotions. But yeah, you gotta choose one story. And so that's the first step after knowing who your clients are. What is it that they want?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So when you speak to larger businesses about that, and maybe they have, 12 different service offerings.
Yeah.
How do you get that all under control? What is it that you do that makes them see that vision?
So oftentimes I make them bring out their books and say, what's making the most money? And let's tell that product story.
Yeah.
And because bringing your lowest product up to to even with your other products is much harder than just taking that one product that's obviously doing meeting a need for your niche customer and just telling that story. And then you have a link to the other products,
Yeah.
obviously, but you got to hone in on what story are you telling for your customer that product is the answer to, that the problem that they're facing, what product is that answer?
Yeah.
And so it's really understanding that one product is helping that transformation happen, and that's why it's doing so well. So if one of your clients, if you say, oh, well, our clients want to lose weight, and then we have all these products that help them. Well, I would say, I would first off say, well, let's dig deeper, because your client doesn't care about losing weight. Your client cares about looking good in a dress, or your client cares about impressing their friends at their, high school reunion.
Yeah.
And or they want to fit into the pair of jeans without their gut spilling over, so that's what they want. And what product is actually helping them find that reach that goal?
Yeah.
And start there. So start with, that's the story you got to start with.
What's the why? Yeah.
That's your why. Yep.
It's such a it's I guess it's an old motto, but it's so important and so overlooked by so many businesses because they're so caught up in how good they are. And a lot of businesses I meet are really good, but if nobody has a reason,
Exactly.
Awesome. Sarah, you've been so generous with your time, so generous with your expertise.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for having me, Joel.
How can people reach out to you?
Well, they can find me at my website, which is braudcreative.com.
Mm-hmm.
And Braud is spelled Braud.
Mm-hmm.
And, or they can find me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I try to stay current and I try to engage with people there. And I really enjoy getting to know, my clients and getting to, build a community there. So if you want to talk to me, that's the best place to do it.
Awesome. Thank you very much for coming on the Stay Hungry podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.